Ruth here from Beltane Gifts. Welcome to the crafting shares. We are once more in the garage, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make one of these little guys, which is a needle felted bee. Now I got the idea to do a needle felting bee after I received a comment on one of my previous videos, which is how to needle felt a cube, and my lovely viewers suggested they'd turn it into a Minecraft bee. After I looked that up, I decided I was not cool enough to make a Minecraft bee, so I thought if I made a normal bee, then hopefully some of the techniques would translate, and if you wanted to make a Minecraft bee, you could give it a go using the same techniques. Fingers crossed. Anyway, hope you enjoy the video. If you do, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, click on that subscribe button and the bell icon, just so you don't miss out on any future videos. 83 of you have done that already. Hi guys, thank you so much for subscribing. So excited, almost at 100. Yes, also if you've got any comments, any questions, any techniques that I'm doing that you're not quite sure about, or you're not quite sure what tools I'm using, pop it down there in the comment section. I will try to get back to you all as soon as possible. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so today we are going to be using a couple of things that we don't normally use when we're making things. So I'm going to be using my metal awl, which is just a metal point with a handle. This is really handy for stretching out things, scratching things, holding things in place. Also going to be using one of these, which is a permanent marker. It doesn't have to be a Sharpie, that's just what I've got to hand. I have got a pre-cut circle of felt. Now you don't need to pre-cut this. I've pre-cut it because it fits into one of these, which is a necklace, metal necklace pendant tray. You'd normally put gems or something else in here. You can use it for all sorts of things, but today I'm going to be using it to stick my finished bee to. So this is just plain acrylic felt. I use the acrylic felt. I find that it works just fine. Some people prefer to use the pure wool felt so that it properly felts, but you can get away with this stuff, the acrylic. So I've got one of these. I've got a needle and thread. Now instead of using cotton, I'm using embroidery cotton, so it comes naturally as 6 floss, I don't know, 6 strands basically, and I've unwound it so that I will be only using, I'm not sure if you can see, I don't know which way to turn it, there's literally just 2 strands that I'll be using today. If you were making a bigger bee, you can use more strands. I'm going to be making quite a small bee, so just the 2. I've got my scissors for trimming things, and I've also got, it's hard to see because it's clear, let me find it. There we go. Some of this. It's just a piece of plastic film. Now this came from a DVD case. I got some old DVD cases I was getting rid of, so before I put them in the recycling, I just tore off the plastic cover that holds the paper insert in place. Yeah, because this stuff comes in handy. So I'm keeping this. I'm going to be making the wings out of this. Finger protectors. Have I said scissors already? I'm going to be using scissors to cut the floss and also to cut out my plastic. And I'm going to be using a needle. This time I'm going to be using a gauged needle. I'm using a 38 star needle. It's the finest one that I have, and that's just because I'm going to be working so small. I really need a really fine needle so that it can fit there in between the fibres. And talking of fibres, I have a selection. I think I'm going to be using the carded rather than the roving today, just as I say, because I'm going to be working quite small. I've got 2 sorts of yellow. I've got more of a tan yellow and more of a bright yellow, just because the bee's body, the yellow tends to vary, so I might use a mix of that. I've got some white for its bum, some black for its stripes. I think that's everything. So what we're going to need first, oh, felting pad, working on a felting pad, finger protectors. Yes, so I'm going to pop our, I can actually see, I'm just going to move my light a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. I'm going to put our acrylic felt there in the centre, and you can start either way with the bee. I worked for some photos originally to get this done and came up, this was my first attempt as a big bee, and then this is my second attempt, which I'm going to be trying today. And from this one I started from the bum and worked forwards, so actually I might try that now. So what I'm going to do, pop on my finger protectors, just because it's quite fiddly and I don't want to stab myself. I'm going to grab just a little piece of the white carded corridale fibre, and I'm going to pull it apart a little bit and then roll it into a ball. Now I'm rolling it into a ball first because it's pretty rounded, the B shape, so this is kind of starting the whole process for me. It saves me a lot of stabbing. So once you've got your fibre there, if you're working from an image, have that handy to work from. I'm going to be working from this one, so I'm going to pop that just up there. So I'm just going to gently hold the fibre in place for a moment with my finger, and I'm just going to work stabbing inwards. So if you imagine this as being the centre of my fibre, my needle is going to be stabbing inwards towards that point just to push the fibre in. So I'm going to work around first. Now this is just going to be this part here, just this very bottom bit, so we don't want it to spread out too much. I'm just going to keep peeling it off and rotating it just so I can get at the area I want to stab. And I'm taking this really slow. You'll find when you're working small, it takes the same amount of time, if not more, than working big. Basically because you're having to be a bit more precise with your stabs. And you also still need to stab it pretty much the same amount, if not more. So yeah, you will find with this, as you work, your fibres are getting pushed through the base. Now, when this happens, what can happen is they end up felting into your felting surface. So just remember to regularly peel off, keep it from fixing itself firmly. And once we've got this, I'm just going to start catching these bits here and stabbing them towards the end. Now once you've got your outline, your basic shape that you want the base to be, you can start stabbing in. Now because we're only going to see this back section here, what I'm going to do is stab towards it that way, just so that we can get the bulk of the fibre towards the back. Otherwise you'll end up with quite a flat bum. We don't want a flat bum. Okay, so now I've got the basic shape. I'm going to go over just with some light little stabs. I'm not going all the way through. I'm just catching that surface area and just getting rid of some of the fullness, so it's a bit more dense. We want it to be quite firm because we're going to be attaching the other parts of our felting to this. Now I'm actually putting my finger against it so that when I'm stabbing this way it doesn't end up shifting, just kind of holds it where I want it. Okay, I think that should be about there. So our next colour is going to be black. So same again, I'm just going to pull off a section of the black fibre. You don't need too much, and as always, less is more. So if you start with less fibre, you can later on, if you need to, always add some more on top, but it's a nightmare trying to remove it. Now this is going to overlap, so what we want, I'm not sure if you can see it with this bee here, is there is a curve and a point going up into the black and then coming back. So we want to get that by stabbing where this point here is in the centre. Oh, poor bee. So I'm going to stab that into place first. I'm doing a few little stabs just because this fibre is quite fluffy, I don't want it to escape. And then what I'm going to do is just stab down in a bit of a curve into the white itself and then forward into the green, and do the same on the other side. And again, I'm using my finger to hold the fibre in place so it doesn't escape. Now once we've got that, I'm just going to go over it again just to make sure it's firmly in place. And if you need to pull anything down, now's the time to do it. Just little stabs, catch it, pull it down. So you can see there, just move it, we've got that little point. Now what we can do is stab this excess of fibre towards the cream, and again this is catching the fibre and it's just making sure that the fullness stays towards the back here. Now it's going to be quite a small bee, so I need to reduce down the amount of black showing. I'm going to stab down a bit and then stab in. And don't worry that it looks quite wide, because we're going to overlap this with the yellow. Again, little stabs just over the surface, just to reduce some of that fullness. Okay, so yellow next. I'm going to use a little bit of both. So I'm just going to mix them together like I did with the house. Did I do that with the house? I did it with something recently. Anyway, I'm just going to pull off a few little sections of both colours, and we're just going to mix them up. I think we'll only need about half of this. We'll save the other half for doing the front. So get your fibres. Again, give them a bit of a roll between your fingers. And this time I'm just going more for a lozenge shape rather than a ball, because we're doing a stripe. Now, same as before, we've got a little point here, so it goes round up to a point and then back down. So we're going to bring that in. Sorry, this is so fiddly. Just going to stab in that top point first. Make sure it's nice and secure. And if you have a look, I'm not leaving much here of the black, because we need these stripes to be quite small. Okay, so once I've got the lines and the outlines in place, I can just give it a nice little stab over the top just to bring things in, and again stab towards the back. Now this is a little bit wide, but don't worry, we want the bee to be quite 3D, so what we're going to do is get all the fibre in place, and then we can stab in from the sides and build up the actual shape we want. So what we need now is the main part of the body, which is curved, so it makes it almost like an oval shape. We're doing this out of the black, so we'll grab another section of the black and roll this one into a bit of a ball, lay it on. Again, do this outline first, so we get that nice curve in now. And then we're going to stab from the other side, bringing things back a bit. Just smarten up some of the others. And I'm going to push these in a little bit. And I'm always aiming towards this central section when I work round, to give it this rounded shape. Go. Now you'll see with my previous one, if you look at it from the side, it's curved, so we've got a curve going this way. We've also got a curve going this way. So this black section here will be our highest point of the bee. So we'll do another section of yellow next. That's going to come around the front and meet up with our previous one. Let me just neaten up this side. So with our yellow, probably a little bit less than that. Again, we're going to roll this more into a bit of a lozenge sausagey shape. Bring this around the front, and this time I'm going to anchor it down here first. So where the yellow here comes down, I'm going to anchor it here and then curve round and anchor it on the other side. Again, stabbing in towards the centre, and then we can just stab in so we get a nice curve on here. And then bring everything in. It's time to peel. There we go. And just stab in any bits that are sticking out. Go. And now it needs a head, which is going to be in black. So just a little bit of black for this. Again, roll it into a bit of a ball. Now the head, not sure if you can see, comes into a point with a few little stabs just to give it almost a nose section there, if you see. So what we're going to do is stab it onto the yellow to start off with, and we're just leaving a bit of a gap first, just stabbing here and here just to attach. And again, we want a nice little curve, so just little jabs. Then we're going to start stabbing the fibre in towards the body, working at a kind of triangular angle. So if you see my needle's stabbing in at this angle, which creates a flat plane here, and this angle, which creates a flat plane here, which brings everything in to give us that point. Good. I'm going to stab it down a little bit to stop it moving in too much. And then little jabs over it just to hold everything in place and keep it nice and secure. Okay, now our bee's got quite height, so I'm just going to make sure it's nice and secure here. Stab straight down in the centre, just bring the central section down a bit, which is our highest point. I'm going to work over my lines where the different colours meet. Just make sure we've got nice shapes. I'm going to bring this yellow in because the front section's slightly smaller there, so we're going to bring this in a bit. Now the great thing is that we haven't overstabbed this fibre yet, which means we've still got a bit of play, so we can shape it once everything's on, which is what we really need, just so that we can get it to look how we want it to. So lots of little stabs now, just bringing everything in, evening it out. We want it nice and curved, so remember to keep varying the angle that you're stabbing. We want to stab always aiming for that central line. So for this side I'll start at this angle, then the needle will come up and work its way around, and that gives us a nice curve there over the front of the body. I'm just going to go over these lines just once more, just to really make them stand out. Now don't worry if you've got a little bit of fluffiness going on here at the lines where a few little fibres are coming over. That's fine, because you find in bees they look quite fluffy, at least these big fluffy bees do. So yeah, it doesn't matter if they look a little bit fluffy, that's all part of their charm. Okay, I'm just going to give them a little squish. Okay, so we've got our basic bee body, and you can play with this as much as you like and just play with getting the details where you want them. Take as long as you need. There's no right amount of time it takes to make this, it's as long as it takes you until you're happy with it. And there we go. So what I'm going to quickly do is I'm just going to grab my awl, and as I was saying about the bees being quite fluffy, I'm just going to use it and just scratch backwards, just catching some of the fibres and just making the bee just that little bit fluffier. I'm not putting much pressure onto this, really lightly, just brushing it over the top, just catching enough to get a little bit of fluffiness going on. Now you need to have really felted quite strongly before you do this, otherwise you can unravel the whole thing, which we don't want. So there we go. So just got a little bit of fluffiness going on. Now what we're going to want are some legs. So for this I'm going to be using the needle and thread. If you wanted to try a go at felting them, you can. I find this just gives me that little bit more control. So let me get my bee back. Now I would definitely recommend using a photograph of the bee for this. Pinterest has got some really great close-ups, and they're really handy just for giving you an idea of the different segments of the legs to make it look more realistic. In this case I'm just going to be following the one I've done before, because I'm too lazy to run upstairs and grab my tablet so that I can see what I'm doing. So instead we're going to have a go with the needle and thread. As usual, I don't tie a knot in mine, so I'm just going to do a little bit of a stitch into the body so that you can't see it on the other side. Pull my thread in and just do a little stitch. Go. Once your thread's secure, I'm going to start off with the antennae. So they're going to come out of this point here that we've created. So where you've done a little indent on either side of the nose, we're just going to come out with the needle. There we go. And I'm going to do a little stitch, just a simple stitch there, and I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. Try and get them as even as you can. There we go. So we've got some little antennae, and the front legs come out just here between the black and the yellow, so just going to pop that there. Now they're a little bit bulkier closer to the body, so you might need to do a couple of stitches. What I tend to do is I will do a little stitch, go back, and just next to where I started I will do another stitch, but I will try and end at the same point here. And then if you need to bulk it up any further, do exactly the same. Try and end at the same point each time. That gives you kind of a little, almost a triangle of fibre there, sewing. And that way, where your stitches meet, that's going to be the joint where your next stitch goes from. So I'm going to start from the end here. So just here. And I'm going to get that to meet where those stitches are. There we go. And I want it to be slightly less at an angle, so I'm going to go same end point there again, and this time I'm going to go right next to it here. There we go, which gives us our little leg. And notice at the end they've almost got like a little U shape. In this case I'm just going to do a little line though, so right next to the end and just across it, so you're coming in just past, sew it through, and we're just going to do one stitch there. So I can do the other side. I'm not happy with the antennae as well, I think they're not long enough, so I'm just going to redo those. That's better. Now your legs don't need to be identical to each other, because I don't know, like with us you can have your legs at different angles, but try and get them as similar as possible with the number of stitches, which will really help with the appearance. So the way I did it was 3 stitches into one here, then 2 stitches for the next segment of the leg, go, and then just 1 stitch across the end. Okay, so those are the front legs, and then the back legs are coming from this black section of body here. So I'm going to do 1 stitch, maybe 2 stitches there close together. Now the reason I'm saving the wings for last is just because I get them all tangled if I tried sewing after I'd added the wings. Now this seems to have quite a large little knuckly bit just here, so I'm just going to give an extra couple of little stitches just at the end. Okay, and then I'm going to do some coming back. Now this part of the project does take quite a while to get right. It's worth spending the time on it though, because it is the bit that you are going to see, so if it's not quite right, like I'm not sure these are quite in the right place, you will notice and it's going to bother you. So take that extra bit of time if you need to. Go, now the last leg just coming straight down, so we're going to start just next to the first one, sorry, second one. Do a couple of longer stitches there, just a couple of short stitches, and then again just a little crossbar just to end. There we go. I'm just going to do the same on the other side and get back to you. Okay, so I've just finished doing my last stitch. I'm just going to go to the back, just do a little stitch to hold everything in place. Go with my scissors. Oops, just do a little snip. Go. Okay, so that's all of our little legs and antennae attached. What we really need though to make it look like a bee and not just a very scary spider is to attach some wings. Now for the wings, let me put this out of the way. I'm going to be using the plastic film. I've lost it again. There it is. So what we need to do first is figure out how big we want our wings to be. So probably to about this side here. And I'm going to use my pen. Just going to hold it there so I know where I am. And I'm just going to draw some wings. So they're a little bit bumpy here and they go in towards the middle. It's not a great drawing, but this is the basis for the wings. So let's put them back for a minute. So if I straighten things up, we're just going to put a bit of a curve towards the top, and we're going to come down in a curve. Okay, and then we're going to come down in another curve and a third curve, and then a curve going inwards there, just to make this central bit a bit smaller. Okay, before I put the pen away, just need to do a couple of lines. So where these curves come in, we're just going to draw a line and just a couple of lines across. Again, have a look at a proper picture just to get the details in. I'm just going really basic here actually, and we'll cut it out first. So with your scissors, just carefully cut around. Get as close to the pen as possible without going over. There we go. Keep your excess because you can use that to make some more. So we've got our basics there. I could do with something to rest on, so I've got a piece of old wood there. Take your awl, and what we're going to do, we're going to use it to scratch off most of the ink. We just want the basic idea of where we've done our drawing. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to stab quite, well, not hard. I'm really indenting it. That's, not sure if you can see, there's actually a line there where I've done it. We don't want to break through the plastic. We don't want to tear it apart. What we want to do is really indent it so that it starts to drag just a bit. Can you see how that's starting to curl up? That's because the point is scoring a line into the plastic, and that's why I'm using this thick plastic that comes with the DVD cases. If you use thinner plastic, your awl, because it's quite a sharp point, would go straight through. If you don't have an awl, quite a fine knitting needle, if you have one of those, would do. Or if not, if you've got kind of a dull darning needle, that would work. So there we go. I'm just catching and I'm dragging, and this is causing the plastic to curl up. Okay, I'm going to do some sideways. We want to get, and be sure to go right to the edges here, and then we're going to turn it over, and we're just going to go over it on the back, and this stops it from just pulling in one direction. If you have it the other way, it's all going to curl up one way, but this way it kind of opens it out in different ways, more random. It just gives us more shape to the wings. Okay, so we don't want all of this black, so I'm just using the side now of the needle just to get rid of quite a bit. We don't need to get rid of all of it, we want some of it still, because if you have a look at pictures of the wings of a bee, you'll find it does have some dark sections on it. So this gives us an idea where to stab originally, and then some of it being left just gives us some of that, see the texture and bits of interest there. So if you have a look from the side, they're quite lumpy now, these wings. So what we need to do is attach them. So we're going to lay them where we want them, which is going to be on this black section here. We're then going to take a section of our black carded fibre. We don't need too much. What we need is enough once we've rolled it together to hold these wings in place. So I'm just starting to rub them together just to get those fibres closer. Put on finger protectors. I'm going to lay it over this central section here of the wings. It's so fiddly with finger protectors on. There we go. So that's going to go there. I'm just going to do a couple of stabs. Actually, I'm just going to do a couple of stabs before I put the wings on. It's just going to be easier. There we go. I'm just doing stabs along the edge there where the yellow and the black meet, just to attach the fibre, just because it's easier than getting my fingers in the way. I'm going to put the wings underneath, fold the black fibre back over the wings, swap to my felting pad, and I'm going to stab the fibre in place at the other line where the yellow and black meet, so that your wings are trapped there in between that band of fibre. Do some little stabs, catch the fibre and pull it in towards this central part. At the minute we're not stabbing in the plastic at all, we're just tightening up this fibre by stabbing on either side of the wings. Go. Once it starts to tighten up and everything's in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some little stabs, and your needle should be able to go through this plastic fibre. What it'll do is it'd be like sewing through it effectively. You're causing just holes to open up, and we're pushing this fibre through. So lots of little stabs through. We don't want to do the stabs too close together, because you'll find if you over perforate the plastic it will just break apart. We just want to do enough to get rid of the fluffiness to the fibre. Oops, push it over a bit. And hold those wings in place. We want to pull the fibre out enough just so it looks a bit more natural, like the wings are growing out of it. There we go. Brilliant. And you'll also find that when you stab, because you're pushing the fibres down, it pulls the wings up a little bit, which gives you a bit more of a 3D feel to it. So you can see that there. The wings are attached, and because we've scored them, they're bumpy, the plastic's bumpy, so you catch the light in different ways, which just gives you more of a 3D feel to them. There we go. Now all we need is to attach it to our pendant. So for this we're going to be using some Mod Podge. This is the dishwasher safe one, which it doesn't need to be, it's just the only Mod Podge I had handy. You can use PVA glue too, or whatever glues you've got about. I hope this is okay, I haven't used it in ages. Oh yeah, there we go. So I've got a little piece of wood here. I'm just going to use this piece of wood, catch a splodge of Mod Podge, and I'm going to turn him over, and I'm just going to put glue over the felt. Make sure you get right to the edges there, and I'm going to grab the pendant bail and we're going to stick him in there. And you might need to just drag with your fingernails to pull things out. Probably could have done with cutting the circle after I'd felted, because this has shrunk a little bit. Oh well, might twist him slightly. He's at a jaunty angle. Go, just work your way around, just putting a bit of pressure on, making sure that the felt is contacting there with the bail. Go, and then once it's all stuck down just leave it somewhere safe to dry. It's probably going to take a little while, especially with this dishwasher one. I don't know if it's going to work. We'll give it a go. So there you go, there is our finished bee pendant ready to be worn. With something like this, I'd probably put it onto a thong rather than a chain, because it could be quite heavy. But yeah, I think it's quite cute. I love how 3D it is, and my wings, I do like the wings. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video. Stay safe out there, stay warm, and I will hopefully see you again next week. Bye.